Nothing. We just did was
It's
out there then.
recorded. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Let's try this. There we go. Jeez,
We're live.
yeah.
We're
Cuck,
live.
Cuck Norris got me.
Well, I wouldn't take it personally. There we are. We're live. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we just did a dry run here. We were trying to get some YouTube stuff worked out, but we're here. And welcome to the Lawn Care Help Desk here on Sunday evening. I'll be your host tonight. I'm Ryan, and Matt is out. He is celebrating the birthday of his daughter tonight with his family. So happy birthday to Lilia. Hope everybody is doing well there in the in Matt's household. You know, it's a good time there, and hopefully they got some time away. Ray, what about you? What are you celebrating today?
Well, I'm celebrating just another good day. All right, Ryan. I'm just celebrating
Uh,
another good, another another day to be grateful for. How's that?
this breathing addiction that you have, it's getting pretty bad, Ray, and I'm quite concerned. And I hope for you that you can find a way to continue it in a recreational format, and maybe not so much in abusing it. Okay, so
Yeah.
take that under advisement. Do what you will with it. We were riffing and thought we were live before this, and dished out all of our good
Mm-hmm.
jokes and everything like that. I'll just say the quicker version of what I said in the pre-show, which was that this is our first show in April, and we wanted to do Lawn Care Help Desk, and it was pretty well received. Pushed it out there to try and get some more people to watch, and hopefully get some more questions in, because the southern 2/3 of the country, the transition zone south, uh, things are moving, things are grooving, and we just screened up here in the nether regions of Canada. If Matt were here, by that I mean Midwest and the Northeast, right? So things are just starting to get going here. So as I told Ray, if this was an Eiffel Tower, Ray's going to take the front and I'm going to take the back, because there's probably more work for Ray to do here on the show with related questions. So with that all being said, minor bit of housekeeping too. Cam will be on the show with us from Elevated Landscapes here coming up on Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Please check that out. His, from what J Pink tells me, his fifth time on the program. And Ray, what a joy it is to talk grass with him, because uh,
He is just
that dude
he's a
is
brilliant
all in.
mind.
He
Yeah,
is.
he
He's a
is
smart
yeah,
dude.
Cam is a brilliant mind. I mean, not exactly your typical cuck in a truck. No, by no
Well, and
means. I mean, he's
here's
intelligent.
the other thing too that I just want to tease. If you don't know who Cam is, please check out his channel, Elevated Landscapes. He's really putting out some good content here in the last month or two. Not that he hasn't before, but just like really timely stuff, and really trying to be incisive with his content. I think more so than just the tired old drivel that we see. But um, we'll talk to him more about Pops's lawn, which is his dad's place, a couple states away from
Mm-hmm.
where he lives. So Ray, um, he is a problem-solving junkie just like us. He likes to go and seek out problems and give himself more work to do so he can learn and put more data in the knowledge base. So excited to talk to him.
For sure.
Now, for tonight, it is open season here, ladies and gentlemen. We have some questions that were left over from last show that we'll dive into, and we will certainly take your questions in the chat. Warm season, cool season. Basically, we'll talk tonight about everything except for tariffs and abortion, if you really want to and have questions about anything other than those topics. So, without further ado, let me go ahead and dive into I'm gonna go back. I gotta get to my chat here so I can look at these questions here. And let's see what they say. Okay. So these are from last. There's our wedding agent. We talked about the wedding agent. We talked about that. Oh, okay. So Lawn Flip asked, specifically talking about quick release. Is there is this recommended for? Oh, okay. So Lawn Flip, he didn't formulate the question quite as well, so I'm going to kind of just take it apart and put it back together for him here. So he's talking about quick release, Ray, and he's saying,
Yeah.
is it recommended in spring, in the transition from winter dormancy? So I'm assuming that he's talking. Let's talk warm season and cool season. We can go both ways here. And he also wants to know, what is the indicator for proper timing? So I don't know where Lawn Flip is located. Let's assume he's in warm season country, and then
He's actually
I'll flip around and
I
do cool
know
season.
this guy. I know
Okay,
this guy, Ryan. He is in Oklahoma City.
you're right.
And
You're right. Well, it was still,
yeah,
so it could be either
he
one then.
either one, but then he deals with a lot of well-maintained Bermuda. So, but he
Oh,
also deals with some turf type tall fescue. So you're right. We do need to address this question as both warm season and cool season. So
okay. So he wants to know, time is quick release a typical approach, and let's say in your case for warm season, and yes or no, and if it is, what is the indicator for timing that out?
okay, to start, if you're talking about Bermuda, the grass is going to be at its highest point of utilization of anything you apply when it is out of transition and resuming active growth. And if you're talking about something like a turf type tall fescue, its transition would actually be happening a little bit earlier than Bermuda. But there are some caveats regarding pushing cool season grasses with a lot of fertilizer in the spring in the transition zone. It's kind of like one of those things where you can do it, but be aware of potential consequences, such as issues with summer kill because the grass is too lush and too succulent when the heat and the drought comes. So just keep that in mind, lawn flip.
Demay, you went silent on us again. There's those cuss words.
And say all the bad words.
Can I say bad words now?
Yes, you can say all the
No.
bad words now.
Shh. What are the 7 bad words you can't say on TV? Oh, shit. Cool. Motherfucker and tits. And tits shouldn't even be on the list. Okay. Um,
Mhm.
so on cool season, the indicator of using any fertilizer in the springtime is going to be dictated a lot by what you did in the previous fall. So if you were fertilizing, if you're in Oklahoma City, if you were fertilizing, say, clear up through like October, maybe even in November, and putting down nitrogen applications, the likelihood that you're going to have to put any fertilizer down prior to, like, I'm going to go ahead and say sometime in May, is highly unlikely and probably a little bit of a waste. And I don't want to hear anything about, oh, I'm trying to wake it up. Oh, I'm trying, like, it will do that on its own. And that is way more dependent on species and more specifically cultivar than it has anything to do with your fertility practices, right? And assuming that you followed, good practices late into the previous year. Now, let's say that you didn't. Let's say that this is a new account that you're picking up if you're on the pro side. If you aren't, in that situation where you fertilize in the fall, then yeah, maybe you could go ahead and come out with an early season application. I would be below a half pound of N for sure, right? And if you don't know, I would
Mhm.
caution you to wait, because some of the issues that Ray just talked about of kind of overdoing it in the spring can have more, we'll call medium term consequences, into the summertime and things like that, right? So I would say that, I've seen that cut both ways, but I think it's also fine to wait, because May is going to be that trigger month for me, right? So you asked about what that time is, cool season. I would look at your lawn in May, and if you don't have well performing cool season turf in the month of May, because Ray, as you know, and we've alluded to in this program before, my dead grandmother God rest your soul, can grow cool season grass all the way until Memorial Day, right? And after that, it takes a
Mhm.
professional, right? And so what I'm saying is that if you get into May and you've got cool season grass and you're not seeing it performing well, then yes, you should be making a fertilizer application because some of the stuff about disease incidents and everything like that, some of that goes out the window, and you don't want to overdo it and just pound the hell out of it. But you have to have dense, right, and growing turf leading into summertime. Otherwise, it could be a long and tough road to hoe in the summertime. So, again, I would be looking at rates at a half pound or less during that time period. If you're going to go out and spoon feed and chop up all these apps and make them smaller and tighten up your frequencies and everything like that, that's a whole other ball game. But we're not going to get into right now. But on cool season, I would hang back right now. There's really no need to rush it. There's no need to quote unquote wake it up. Get it until May, and then if you don't have good performing cool season grass in the month of May, wherever you are, um, you know that there's an issue, and it probably calls for a little bit of fertilizer, a little bit of nitrogen fertilizer, and go from there. So take that for what you will. And look at that, Marvin Williams. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
let's see here. Uh, what the hell is this chart? Put the chart up. Put the chart up.
Yeah,
Can we not do that?
yeah, we can.
Where'd you get that from? Did you make that?
Just no. I stole it from Reddit.
There you go. You know, this truly is dethatch in the spring, overseed water, fertilize, kill weeds, your grass is cut high, sharpen blades. Listen, I don't necessarily subscribe to everything it's on here, but most things I do. And listen, Ray, there's nothing wrong with living in the bell curve. The people at the far ends of the spectrum on any issue are usually the kind of people you don't want to have a beer with. Am I right?
You're totally right. But at the same time, my tendency would be to say I tend not to like to have bourbon with people on the left hand 2/3 of the bell curve. That's just me. That's
Yeah.
just me. I mean, I find that both the conventional and the empty-headed are rather maddening.
Good Lord. Oh boy. Well, there you have it. If you're ever in doubt of where you are, folks, just let us know where you are on the bell curve before you send your question in, so we can uh, properly have a conversation for you. Okay, we're with you. All right, Boomer Sooner. No doubt where the hell this guy is. Speaking of Oklahoma, hey guys, rolling my own three-way. He wants to go, Ray. Listen up here. Get your pen and paper ready.
Okay.
18 fluid ounces per acre on the Triclopure 3. He wants to go 4 ounces to the acre on dicamba, and then 4 ounces to the
Whoa.
acre of MCPA amine.
Okay. Okay, hang on, Ryan.
Yeah.
I would actually formulate this kind of three-way on cool season grass only. Do not ever
Mm-hmm.
apply this to any kind of warm season grasses for Zoysia.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would raise the MCPA to 16 ounces, and I would cut that dicamba down to 2 ounces. And here's why. At 4 ounces per acre of, say, dimethylamine salt dicamba, you run the risk of killing trees. Okay? Because dicamba is like that, Brian. And I've seen personally what happens when somebody gets happy with the good old Banville 4L. Bad things can happen. But
Oh,
likewise,
yeah, you don't want that.
MCPA amine is considered an alternative to 2,4-D, and it needs to be used at rates similar to 2,4-D in order to be effective. So I would probably up that MCPA a bit. And Ryan, this formula is reminiscent of two new farm products. One is called horsepower. That is all MCPA amine, triclopyramine, and dicamba. Sister product to that
Mm,
is cool power, which is the
yep.
ester version of those three herbicides. And I personally am a fan of cool power. Very effective
It's
product.
cool power. It is. It is a
Yeah.
very effective product, and I think uh, maybe you have that stuff laying around. I don't know. I haven't costed that out in several years. I don't know if that is that much cheaper, right? And rolling your own, but maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not sure,
You
but
know, you know, MCPA amine is normally an exotic product that I only see mostly in ag because that's used quite a bit on crops like flax and wheat. Okay, it's kind of a specialty
mhm.
product. Of course, the triclopyr is easy to come by, and if somebody is trying to control certain weeds in a cool season turf, in a lot of cases, triclopyr is in fact their best, option because it's so effective. And this is the time of the year to be applying triclopyr. Get it down in early spring.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Jeremiah. Ooh, Ray's gonna get excited here. Loveland makes a buffer product called LI 700, but I use Simplot's 007. Is it as good? And also, what is better to use a buffer like these or AMS at 8 to 10 pounds per 100 gallons? Oof.
Whew.
I mean, those. But a simple answer is that they're not going to do necessarily the same thing. The more
No.
pointed answer would be, what are you trying to do with this
What are you trying
application? Because
what are you trying to
that would give
achieve?
us a better hint.
Because
Yeah.
because Loveland's product is proprietary in that a major component of LI 700 is soy lecithin. And soy lecithin is used as a coupling and penetrating agent that enhances the absorption of herbicides into the leaves of the weeds. That is why it is not comparable to, say, have an anionic surfactant and acidify the water with something like AMS because you're missing out on that soy lecithin coupling agent that causes herbicides to penetrate into the leaves of the weeds a lot faster and more completely. And as to the 007, it would only be equivalent to LI 700 if the active ingredients are the same. So, just check your labels and, you know what you're getting, know what you're using. And here's another little point is that AMS in and of itself is also a good agent to improve herbicide efficacy because there's something about tank mixing nitrogen with something like three-way or quinclorac that makes the application so much better. And Ryan,
Hmm.
an example of this was 4 years ago. Uh, J Pink's friend got a hell of a tank mix by me.
What was
One
that?
hell of a tank. Oh, let's see. It was water soluble triple 18, some chelated micronutrients, triclopyr, and quinclorac.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe at the bar they call that a kamikaze or a long. That's the Long Island iced tea of herbicides. That's what we
Of,
need.
lo-
We need.
of lo- a Long Island tea app, but it
I
worked.
thought. Yeah. I mean, people get freaked out about that. I mean, the whole like to make death mix thing that we use here, the quinclorac, the um HPPD of your choice, tenacity or Pilex, and Speed
Mhm.
Zone, and then like
Mm.
people get worried about that, and it
Yeah, people get
doesn't bother anything.
unnecessarily alarmed. I mean, and my inspiration to that was when I used to have to maintain acres of HOA lawns, on the cheap, 25 years ago. One of my main tank mixes there was water soluble nitrogen and Trimec Classic.
There you go. There you go. That's fine.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
fine.
it worked. It worked. So, yeah, just understand what you are doing, Jeremiah, and what effect it'll have.
All right. He had one more thing here to say. Um,
Mhm.
could you guys give me an idea or a direction on a good turf convention or just a good industry convention around the US? Maybe with a novice DIY guy in mind. And then a show or conference with more advanced pros and owners. Thank you. I love listening to your show. So Jeremiah, thank you very much too. Um, as far as the conference, I don't know which part of the country you're in. Let's say that most of the uh, good conferences are east of the Mississippi, and so if you're looking for something that's a little bit more DIY, I mean, from a show standpoint, I think Equip Expo or whatever the hell it's called nowadays in Louisville
Yeah.
is pretty close to that. They're pushing hard this year to revamp their education and their offerings there, but I think it's going to be very much focused on owner operators and their crews and things like that. So um, I've seen some of the lineup. I don't know. TBD on how well that'll work out. I know we've talked about, we're there for 3 days basically. We're there most of Tuesday or part of Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We've talked about running, some educational seminars during that, for our people that are there that come to it. And the idea has been well received. So we'll see if we can execute on that. I know J Pink has been planning for a space that we could do something like that. So more details forthcoming. Fast approaching too, by the way. Almost 6 months until we're in Louisville, which is crazy to think. But again, here we are.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Here we are,
the
Ryan, because yeah, here we
it,
are.
it which means it's like well, it's almost 6 months from now that Ray's going to get on a plane and fly to Atlanta and get picked up and fly faster up I-75 than he did in the plane on his way to Louisville. These are seemingly insignificant details of Ray putting his life in somebody else's hands. Just the way it goes. Um, other conventions that are good. I think the New England show that just concluded about a month ago up in Providence, Rhode Island, is a fantastic show. I think they put on a really good program for education. They have a nice big trade show. North Carolina has a really good sports and golf show, but not so much lawn care. Rutgers, so any of the land grant institutions are going to put on some good conferences. And here in Ohio, we put on what I think is one of the best shows in the country in December every year. So let us know where you're at, and we'll try to connect you with the right people and everything like that. And, to follow along for what we're going to do in Louisville, check us out, www.patreon.com/burn and return. And you'll get plugged in for all of our stuff. Our events are all members only and everything like that. So definitely check it out if you are so inclined. All right. Let's see here. Rob. I think Rob might have wrote in last time, or somebody wrote in with a similar question, and we were a little bit freaked out, Ray. Rob says, "Hello,
Yeah.
I'm located on the North Carolina Virginia border near I-95. Ryan, which herbicide can I spot spray POA in a zoysia and tall fescue lawn? Thanks."
Oh,
The
nothing,
answer is, no, I was gonna say,
nothing, 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 nothing. Because Rob, I would implore you to kindly pick one turf type and run with it. Because Ryan, what I would call that kind of lawn here in Hawaii is I'd call that a chop suey lawn, because it's just a mix of various weeds and grasses that is essentially unmanageable and unmaintainable to any standard. Yeah, you can mow it, but that is all you can do to it, because there are no definitive turf types in there that are amenable to selective weed control. And mixing zoysia and turf type tall fescue, Ryan, would you call that living in hard mode?
I just think it's, it's like growing up, Ray. My parents wouldn't let me use a glass plate until I was like,
Mhm.
maybe about 12, because and it was probably for good reason, and I can't blame them, but they thought that I would break the glass plate. We just can't have nice things. And when you have a Zoysian tall fescue lawn, it is the plastic plates of lawns in the North Carolina Virginia border area. You're never going to be disappointed, but you're also probably never going to be happy either. How's that?
Yep. I mean, in other words, you'll just have to live with whatever grassy weeds come up. And I have a little bit more inside baseball in that would ordinarily suggest fluazaflop or phenoxaprop, either fusilade or acclaim extra, for the other grassy weeds that could possibly pop up in a zoysia and tall fescue lawn. However, my understanding is that POA is resistant to both fluazaflop and phenoxaprop, so you don't have that out
Yeah, it's
in this
it's not going
case.
to be ideal there.
Yeah.
Hmm. What's this here? Okay. All right. Let's see here. No, it did. What herbicide can I use in warm season? Oh, he's saying he wants to know what herbicide can I use on warm season to spray and what herbicide can I spray on tall fescue? Okay. So he doesn't have a mixed lawn. He has two separate lawns of different species. Okay. So if he's trying to control POA at this time of year in zoysia ray,
Mhm.
and then I can talk about
Then
tall fescue.
yeah, yeah, then he's got all manner of options in that he's got use of things like monument, katana, or negate that can be used on the zoysia and the zoysia only. However, on the turf type tall fescue, he's got two options there, in that he's either got velocity or he's got the other option of estafimicate. So, but then here's the caveat: you may not apply estafimicate anywhere near zoysia; it'll kill it. You also may
Mm.
not apply velocity on Zoysia because it'll also probably kill it. So take that for what it's worth.
Now on tall fescue here, Rob, um, without getting too far in the weeds, if you're trying to selectively control something, um, right now, velocity is probably going to be your only bet, and it's actually from the plots that I've seen at a few different universities, and from my own experience and messing around with it in some different spots. I think that you'll be fine on tall fescue. Your timing, though, is a little bit further out. Now you're going to need some of that heat, from May and June to antagonize and put that POA on its back, with those applications. And so, if you want to go the expensive route, there's that. In spring, the other option that you have too in your area, and you're kind of in the window right now, depending on how much is out there, would be to go out there and just hit it, whether you're spraying it or you can use a weed wand, right? Or also done the Ray. We've talked about this before, but the bingo daubers, the Bing Glow. You inject a little
Oh,
glyphosate in there, and you just tap it on there, just a little
yep,
tap tap
yep,
taparoo.
yep. You can.
But
Quick question though, Ryan.
yeah,
That dabber technique, or even that weed hockey stick. Important point to make is to only use that on weeds that are definitely taller than your desirable turf, because we are talking about swinging that stick containing a 33% glyphosate solution over the top of the grass, Ryan. I mean, I just remembered
that's
that.
the that's like, honestly, this time of year, if you have poet triv or quackgrass, that's one of my favorite
That's the
ones to
best
do,
way.
because if you can let it grow up, and you can literally just either wipe it, you can or whatever, wick it, or you can
Mm,
daub it, and it's sticking up so much taller than everything else.
higher.
It's a lot easier to control. It's a lot easier
It's
to control.
basically
So
it's a it's a big target. It's a big target at this time of the year, isn't it? When that poatriv is growing so much faster than the desirable turf.
it is, and so, like, for Poa annua, I think you can do the same thing, but the whole point here, Rob, is that um, it's always a tough road to hoe when you're trying to selectively take one grass out of another with chemistry. And I think at this point in the year, you are in a window where non-selective would work, and then you can seed right behind it, and then get I would say probably reasonably good recovery to try and fill in those areas on the fescue lawn. So take that for what it's worth. I think that's going to be a more surefire way, probably a less expensive way. Although you're going to have to stomach, kind of the acne face 17-year-old face zit thing on your lawn for a period of 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and some people just can't handle that. So, um, just do more grocery shopping and stay away from the lawn while that's happening. That'd be my advice, Rob. All right, let's see here. Kevin Shepard says the Domain Death Mix can be spicy if applied too early. I found that out the hard way. Yeah, I I tell you, I haven't had any problems. I haven't. I'm not saying that's cold hard, stone cold lead pipe lock and take it to the bank, but it's good to know. And I'm gonna keep spraying my dick and crazy apparently. So Chuck Benzing, USDA Zone 6B, what is the appropriate time to put the classic Don Featherstone lawn flamingos? Also, what Bispirac sodium name brand is most effective? See above. So Chuck, I don't know that there is any other Bispirac sodium that isn't velocity out there right now. Maybe I'm mistaken, but Ray, do you know of any other?
I don't know of any other that's labeled for turfgrass use. I am familiar with a Bispirac sodium formulation that is labeled for application to rice, of all things, Ryan.
Really?
Rice. Yeah. You use Bispirac sodium to fry foreign grasses in a rice field. That's its actual use.
That'll do it. That will do it. All right, let's see here. And then Chuck, related to the flamingos, my advice would be at the appropriate time to exact maximum embarrassment on your children, your spouse, or anybody else that uses that house for a permanent or semi-permanent residence. That would be the appropriate time. Okay. Let's see here. David Steyer. Uh-oh. Ray, we got
I
bad
know
news here.
him.
We got a
I know
bad news
him.
question here.
I know what he did too.
Yeah,
What
the
he did is
lawn is recovering from a spicy mix of carbazone to kill off POA. Now the lawn is stressed. What's the best way to help the lawn recover from herbicide stress? Uh, David, you know, um, well, J Pink talked about this before the show. I don't think anybody heard him, but he had seen where somebody had named themselves on Reddit or TikTok or something to that effect. Instead of Chuck Norris, it was Cuck Norris. And
Mhm.
David, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you that my recommendation for you is to be like a good Cuck Norris, put the ball gag in your mouth and sit there and take it, because that's about all you're going to be able to do, unfortunately, right now. I don't
Yep.
know where you're located. Um, how long ago and at what rate did you make that application? I'm actually very curious and on what desirable turf, because um, there's a pretty wide range of. Oh, he's in Cincy. Oh boy. Okay. Okay, so if he's in Cincy, so we've had a shit ton of rain. They've had a lot of rain, Ray. Like they've had like over 6 inches of rain in the last like 4 or 5 days. There's some cold temps on the way. So um the fortunate thing is that we are like just about to be at spring flush. So I think if there's going to be recovery, you're at the absolute best time to see recovery here, David. And yeah, I hope you got all the
Yeah.
POA. That's all I can say. 'Cause I hope you got the POA. Gosh,
Yeah.
that's the worst is when you
Yeah.
make that app and you fry stuff and then the POA is still sitting there staring you in the face like a prize fighter, right? It gets up like at the 8 count, takes 2 steps
Mhm.
towards you and just drills you right in the jaw.
Yep.
Yeah, not cool.
Uh,
Not
that on the
not
other hand is kind of why I tell people if they are going to do a burn and return tank mix, make sure that burn and return tank mix absolutely totally is going to work on their target weed. And Aldo gave us a little more inside baseball. He is in North Carolina growing a Kentucky bluegrass lawn in North Carolina, Ryan.
Ooh.
I mean, and that's where this is another lawn on hard mode right there. A
Yeah.
full season grass in North Carolina. I mean, my goodness. The only thing
I
that grows well in North Carolina is the damn poor.
I was gonna. I mean, so I think the only thing that you can do is create the most nurturing environment for your Kentucky bluegrass that you possibly can. And
Mhm.
man, that's tough. I'd love to know what cultivar of bluegrass it is, because that particular product, that active, is really sensitive on some and not so much on others. And so, um, I would just be interested because there's been enough work done around the country, from a research perspective and also with protect practitioners that would say and be able to kind of give maybe some reliable advice other than to say that you just gotta, I guess, sit there and take it. Okay, he's got Texas bluegrass. Oh boy, man. Okay, David, good luck. Okay, Michael Herring. Michael says, In a previous episode, there was talk about triple crown and zeta cypermethrin possibly burning the grass, plants, shrubs in hot temperatures. Are there any real world lessons that aren't on the label of the Biofen 2EC 25% that is more oily? Ooh, so he's using the emulsifiable concentrate, Ray. What do you know about that?
Okay, here's what I know about Bifin EC is that the difference between bifenthrin and cypermethrin EC is that bifenthrin is applied at a much lower rate. Because here's what I know about cypermethrin. That is only used for one purpose in residential areas, and that is for termite and structural pest control. So oftentimes, the label rate of cypermethrin being applied is the rate you normally use for a 1-year termite barrier or a 3-month cockroach barrier. And so the rate used is extremely high. Whereas with bifenthrin EC, I do believe you're only using like 2 to 4 ounces of concentrate in 100 gallons of water when you're spraying on trees and ornamentals. That's the difference. Because, by the way, Ryan, I've seen bad things happen when pest control operators try to play lawn care operators with cypermethrin EC in their spray tank.
Not cool. Not cool at all.
Mhm.
Yeah. I It's amazing how many people will do things that will get them out over their skis, and I appreciate him asking, to be upfront. Michael, thank you for the question, and hopefully not asking that from a point of pain or whatever. J Pink, let me get you. There's another clip that I need to get you because I saw this one earlier and I wanted to share it, and I've got a freaking. I'm not going to be able to redact this because, well, whatever. It's on Facebook. If you want to go find it, you can fucking find it.
Yeah.
I saw this earlier, Ray, and I had to share it with the group.
Mm-hmm. What happened,
Copy this.
Ryan?
Well, somebody is on the Ohio Lawn Care Nut, which is about one of the few lawn care groups that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, let's see here. So, let me get this last clip here with the advice from the group expert in gardening, Ray. I think we've talked about old Tom on here before. Sure, he's a nice guy, swell dude. Just
I'm
doesn't
sure
always
of
give
it.
the best advice. Yeah, he's the kind of guy you'd want to go to Outback with and share a blooming onion, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or in honor of Aldo, the maybe either a tour of Italy. Oh, actually no, he'd be the second white dude in the gringo table to share the never ending pasta bowl and be made fun of by all the Mexicanos working in the back of the house. So that's a special place that Tom should occupy. So
Yeah.
pinches gringos. All right. Let's go ahead and do the first one here. And let's take a look at that when Brandon posts his question here, J Ping. Throw that one up first. Then we'll get some close-ups on these other photos. All right, so Brandon says, "Hi everyone, new to the group, trying to get my lawn ready for summer. Had some grout damage last year and looking to repair this year. Should I just go with a fertilizer? I typically use Scott's Triple Action and it works well on my lawn. Or should I throw some seed down? Pics for reference." All right, so J Pink, throw a couple of those pictures up. You got some of those right there. Those are good. I don't know that we need. Yeah, so there's a close up. Ray, typical
Mm-hmm.
after the last season grout damage, and it doesn't look terrible. At least it has not been torn up by animals. So he's got that
Right.
going for him. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and overall, it could be worse. So we go down, and our buddy Tom gets in there, and Tom says, "Welcome." This isn't in your yours here, JPing. I'm going to read this. Tom says, "Welcome. Definitely get a pre-emergent down ASAP when it dries because it's rainy." Good tip there. And a spring fertilizer application. Then get a grub control product down. I personally use and prefer Anderson's products, which you're welcome to get any brand. He sends him a link to Barricade. He sends him a link to Duocide, Ray. Duocide.
What? What? Oh
So it
boy.
so so then go ahead and go down there to that next one. There we go. So he kind of goes through and he says, Tom tells Brandon after, hey, maybe should I seed? Are you sure I shouldn't seed? He says, no, I'd hold off on seed this late, says Tom. Plan for a strong fertilizer and weed control program this year, then come in the fall and plan to aerate and seed. Sounds like a good plan. Should I get a grub killer going down multiple times during the season? Brandon asks. Because remember, he's a first timer. He doesn't know, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
do I pleasure her once? Do I pleasure her multiple times? I've never done this before, right? And Ray, like anything in life, the second time is always better than the first time. Am I right? Right? So
No.
I'll give Brandon a pass
No.
here. I'll give Brandon a pass
No,
here.
it's
I give
not.
Brandon a
It's not because you see,
golden rule. So
second
this
time
is listen. Go ahead. Second time. Go ahead.
second time is not nearly as good because you know, second time oftentimes the well is running dry. So, you know what, Ryan? This just sounds like somebody being told to, oh, keep on throwing it down. And you know what, Ryan? I'm reading further down and it said something about I usually throw pest control down 3 times a year. Ryan,
One to
I'm
three
cringing.
times. 1 to 3 times a
I'm
year. Now
I'm cringing.
that's
I'm cringing already. I'm cringing.
that that that's the extent of what's out there right now. This post is very new, but um I think what Brandon needs to do is try and seed. His instincts were actually right, you know.
Hmm.
Try and get some seed in there, try and get some recovery. It looks like some cool season mix. I can see some fine fescue in there, some tall fescue. So it's probably just a, bullshit lawn mix,
All in one mix.
I
It's an
yeah,
all in one mix. Yeah.
all in one
Yeah.
mix. And so I don't know if he's gonna get any more advice, but I'm gonna jump in here, I think, and probably be like, dude, you need to seriously not do what they're telling you and try this a different way. Because otherwise this is gonna create a lot of problems. A lot of problems for a
For
lot of
sure.
people because yeah, there's no reason to be making those applications of the continued applications of duocide, right? There's better products and better ways to go after that. And as far as any grubs that are feeding now, I've seen this question already on some places popping
Uh
up of, hey, I found a
Ryan,
grub and it's April. What should I do?
Ryan,
Answer is not a goddamn thing yet. Yes.
I don't think our listeners quite understand what duocide even is.
Why don't you go and explain it to the folks at home?
Duocide, folks, is a granular product consisting of carbaryl and bifenthrin. Okay? And carbaryl, guys, I'm going to tell it like it is. And you know what? That is so 1950s. Okay? Carbaryl is so 1950s. I cannot think of a good reason to be routinely applying that to a lawn. And oh, by the way, the EPA themselves doesn't think there's a good reason to be applying carbaryl to a residential lawn either, by the way. So much so that duocide is the only product I know of that even has a label for application to residential lawns anymore.
For now,
For now.
till Tom sells it across the entire world. Um,
Yee.
and then It gets applied 1 to 3 times a year. 1 to 3 is a kind of a pretty wide chasm there too.
range
I
there.
also
Yeah.
question. Yeah, I don't know about that. Okay. Let's see here. Aldo wants to know which of these herbicides does more heavy lifting on sedges? Rank them by greatest to least control. Certainty, Monument, Image, Carfentrazone.
Oh, okay, Aldo. I'd probably rank them in the following order from most effective to least, and I'll tell you why. Image, naturally, most effective because there is a strong soil active component to image or imazaquin. That is followed by Monument, because Monument does have some soil activity, although not as much as image, followed by Certainty, which has broad spectrum control of whatever sedges it happens to contact at the time of application. And lastly, carfentrazone, I consider that more of a product to let your clientele know that you were there, because carfentrazone will cause rapid foliar damage to sedges, but it will not translocate down to the roots. However, it makes for good conversation with your clientele when you throw carfentrazone into the sprayer with your Certainty, Monument, or Image, because what they get to see is rapidly dying sedges. But it is not intended to be used as a standalone herbicide on sedges.
Hmm. Interesting.
Yeah.
I even got educated there. I felt good about that. The carfentrazone on Sedge's thing, I've played around with that. I can speak to that. Like you would think sulfentrazone, carfentrazone, PPOI, like you're gonna get some similarity, right, in its control, and it's not even close. Not even
Not even
close.
close, because the difference between carfentrazone and sulfentrazone is that carfentrazone has minimal to no soil activity compared to sulfentrazone. And that minimal to no soil activity is why carfentrazone is my favorite for tank mixes to be applied to recently seeded or sprigged turf, because there is no interference of the carfentrazone happening to the desirable turf grass.
Yeah, that's what he just mentioned, is that carfentrazone is his preferred kicker in almost every tank. It just accelerates burn down so much while being gentle and not injuring. Yeah, and that's exactly its use case. That's exactly what it's there for. It's exactly why PBI Gordon puts it in speed zone and others, right? To
Mm-hmm.
basically to get a visual result in a very short amount of time, so that people aren't calling you back and question, "Hey man, your shit didn't kill my weeds." Like, well, you know, go
Mm-hmm.
out there and look. I
Yeah.
got carfentrazone in that dog. Go look
Yeah. I
again.
mean, yeah. Ask me again in 48 hours, right? Ask me again in 48
Mhm.
hours, because my experience with carfentrazone is that within 24 hours, you'll see a lot of wilting and burning on most weeds.
There you go. Let's see here. What's our next one here? I got to click over. Oh, there we go. T Dot wants to know, what's wrong with Texas bluegrass? I saw that for sale in my area. Nothing wrong with it in particular. I mean, it's a look up thermal blue or Texas bluegrass. It's lighter in color, not quite as dense, right? You still have the same morphological characteristics, the boat shaped tip, the strong prominent midrib, all that jazz, right? And it's just supposed to be more heat tolerant, right? A little bit more, they say,
Mm-hmm.
drought tolerant. there's a lot of sketchy graphs and stuff like that, and some of the seed sales sheets on it. And Ray, for I don't know if they, I don't think they still do. There was some sod growers around the Midwest. I can't say about the Northeast, but the Midwest for sure, that had this stuff sold to
There-
them, and they were putting it in bluegrass blends
there-
as a means to make the sod not be as water
Finicky
starved
in the
and that sort of thing.
finicky in the heat, finicky in the heat. That kind
Yeah,
of thing.
like I said, I have never. I can say this unequivocally. I've never once seen, nor managed, nor planted a 100% Texas bluegrass lawn. So maybe I should try that. Maybe that's what Aldo should do next year for his lawn jockey when he switches. I don't know, what would he be? Alan Belvedere. That would be his gringo name, and he'd wear the jorts and the New Balance and mow his lawn with like a Murray push mower from Walmart. Uh, yes, I want to see that. That's the content I need to see. All right, let's see here. Ooh, Cam
Oh,
elevated landscape. So listen, we'll talk more about this because this sounds like a juicy one. But sanity check. I know you got 72 hours before you're on here, so yeah, we definitely want to help you out in your struggle. But had a client with lawn that was lawn destroyed by army worms last year. Power raked, aerated, overseeded last fall. Came in thin last fall and is full of weeds right now. What's your move? Um, my move would be to figure out. Okay, that is a little bit weird, J Pink. So here's what I would say, Cam, is it wasn't the most hospitable winter for growing in seed. I don't know how late you see it or anything like that. Um, but I think we ought to. What is this? Oh, okay. Interesting. I'll have to read that comment later, J Pink. Um, no, so here's the thing, Cam, is that it wasn't the greatest winter to grow that stuff back in. Um, I would be looking at them, if you have control over the irrigation system, if there is an irrigation system, if they're willing to water everything like that, um, you're kind of in that fight or flight realm right now, calendar wise, because, um, yeah, you could push seed now and really try to get it to fill in. Um, but you're going to do so at the expense of probably being, having to chase some, summer annual grassy weeds around, so that would be the calculus I would take is, do we want to push seed and chase grassy weeds this summer, or do we want to hang back, kind of get back to the basics and just stick with your normal approach, right? And stick with the fertilizer, stick with the weed control and everything like that, and live to fight another day. Because in your area, that would be my only concern, is that whatever comes up now is going to be like hell to try and fight and keep alive. Although I don't know how thin is, right? So from that angle, just kind of see what comes and goes from there. So okay, all right. Let's see here. I don't know what to think about that, J Pink. Sorry. I know what Matt would say about that.
Get fucked.
It would pretty much, yes, it would be that. Uh,
I mean, yep.
dude, I'm just saying. I'll read the comment. I'm not trying to be an asshole to this guy. Matt would definitely be an asshole, and he'd have every right to be. But there was a comment in the chat that says, "Fellas, do yourself a favor. If follows in favor of follows and likes, to change the tone of your comment, share the wealth of knowledge in a, I'm guessing, in a more productive format or content or what." Dude, I appreciate you. You coming on here and making the comment and everything like that, taking the time to type it out. I'm just gonna say this, like, this is just how we do it. It's how we've done it for 4 years. It works for us. It's not to be, pandering to somebody else. It's not to be, mean to somebody else. It's not to upset somebody else's feathers. This is literally us, being problem-solving junkies and sharing it in the way that we talk. Like, this is just how we talk. If you want us to be somebody that we're not and be disingenuous and all that, like, you're gonna have to go find another channel, man. I'm sorry. Like, that's just how we do
Yeah,
it. So,
real sorry because, you know, the straightest talking people I have known are the old timers in the turf grass and nursery business. They do not mince words at all. They
yeah,
do not
like I
mince
like I
words.
said,
Mince words.
I
They don't
I
kiss asses.
I'll just Todd, and I don't know how long you've been around. Like, listen, I'm doing this
Mm.
in a much gentler way than Matt would, for sure. And I love you, Matt, too. I'm glad. By the way, I'm also glad that this shows you who we are and like, you know, Matt could have been here tonight, all that kind of stuff. He's taking time to spend with his, family and celebrate his daughter's birthday and stuff like that. So, like, this is not the end all be all for us, right? Like, this is just something we do. But here's the deal, and I'll just say this as a disclaimer. And hey, it's a good way to start the season off. Is that, um, first off, an asshole doesn't know any better. A prick knows exactly what he's doing at all times, and we are all huge pricks on this show. 100%. We're all huge pricks. We're all making moves, and we really feel confident about what we're doing because we've screwed up a shit ton of stuff in our day. Second is that, we truly are friends off the air. We're not, it's not always, sunshine and puppy dogs and everything like that, but this is our way to talk and chat and get together and kick it. And it just so happens that we like answering these questions because we're junkies for problem solving and trying to help people out and share our knowledge, right? And it just so happens that we press record, we push it out there, and this is the way we do it. And Todd, this isn't solely directed at you. If people are new and people are coming on here for the first time, we're like, man, who are these guys making dick jokes and answering grass questions all in the same sentence? This is fucking weird. That's just who we are. And so you'll either come to appreciate it, you'll turn us off, maybe you'll do one or the other. I don't know. But everybody's welcome here, as long as they want to listen, and put up with us and, go on from there. It's one big happy family. So with that, let's see here. We got time for, what is this here? Oh boy, Chuck, what are you doing? Chuck says, I'm willing
Yee.
to fuck around and find out with Poa subpoena and some dense shade areas this year. Any risk or concerns? There's no risk or concerns. It's just, it is not a silver bullet for that, right? If I were you, I would seriously look at, number one, I would talk to Evie because Evie is my guy. I don't know as much about Fine Fescue as what he does, but I would look at Fine Fescue. It's got a much lower, DLI or daily light interval, right, that it needs to grow. So that's the amount of
Right,
light that it
right.
gets in a day. And I think you'd probably be much happier with that, Chad, Chuck. It's not as nice to grow in. It's not as nice to look at sometimes, depending on what you get. But I think you'll be very much happy with how it performs in shade and in dense shade, in those situations. So take that for what it's worth. And if and as Jay Pink has shared with us in our behind the scenes chat, if you'd like to see the peak of this show, um, interacting with the comment box, of our viewers, if Matt, I would, and again, if you're also just joining us on the show, we have many URLs that we have purchased over the years, to help people find stuff easier, right? It's not always easy to go to YouTube and search for something or find something. Like, for instance, if you wanted to and you were so inclined, you could go to www.serialdomesticabuser. That's SERIAL domesticabuser.com and check out Pest and Lawn Ginger literally committing a felony on camera. Speaking of people who have committed felonies, and God bless, he did it with a camera, but not on camera. But Yardbra, go to www.yardbra, that's YARDBRAH.com, and you'll see what old Jeffrey has been up to in his time subsequent to YouTube, and his fame there. What else do we have? And then this one here. This is the one that I was alluding to just a few minutes ago. Um, I'll go ahead and say it. It is www.pussymeds. That's PUSSY for those scoring at home. And that takes you to Matt talking to one of our viewers who uh, didn't like what Matt had to say, and Matt told him what he had to say. So go ahead and type that in, check it out. Maybe do it in an incognito window though. You don't want to have Facebook and Google knowing that you're typing in pussy meds, into the search bar. So, but without further ado, I encourage you to take that out. David R has our last question of the evening. David says, question: Mazama KBG 1.25 inch cut home lawn is in Columbus, Ohio. What's up, David? When should I be timing my first nitrogen application? Quarter pound to half pound for the spring. I want to keep leaf spot potential low, but lots of rain lately. Also suspect I have triv. I think there's a strategy for avoid end based on that too. Man, we just talked about a whole bunch of this stuff, David. And I'm not trying to be a dick at all. I'll go back through it gladly. So yes, it has been super challenging here to make out with any type of cultural practices or fertility treatments, really anything, right? So if I was growing Mazama at 1.25 inches, leaf spot would be a little bit of a concern. I think you're going to probably want to get ahead of that here before, I'll say, like next week, because we're going to be starting to get into some of those temperatures again. We've got some rain end of the week, stuff like that. So, sometime between Friday afternoon and like Monday, if you are going to be applying a fungicide for that, I'd go out around then. That'd be a proper timing. In terms of nitrogen timing, I would say again, hold off. Like, if you
Next fall,
were
maybe
applying,
next fall, Ryan.
no,
I mean that.
oh no, Mazam was going to eat, son. Like it's going to take him a solid 2.5 pounds, or so. And I don't know
Per
how
ye
new this is, but I'll say
per
two and a
year
half
per
pounds a year
year.
he can get away with. Yep.
Sure, but
So,
I'm just thinking
mhm.
in terms of if he's asking about nitrogen right now, my question to him would be, where was his fall nitrogen apps
Yeah, that's what
actually?
I really would want to know for sure.
Where w where were his fall nitrogen apps? Because you see, Ryan, I noticed a common theme. People
What's that?
didn't do sufficient fall nitrogen, and their grass is looking a bit sad, kind of like, how sad I would look after a night on the town and no midnight snack. I mean, so so, I'm
Ray.
just wondering, where was his fall nitrogen app?
Yeah, that would be good info. David let's just assume both, right? I'm assuming that if you have Mizam at 1.25 inches, that you were probably taking care of it in through last fall, right? And so again, my uh, trigger point would be probably closer towards another month from now. You're going to grow fine. You're going to have great growth rates, everything like that. You're not sacrificing a thing by not putting any nitrogen on right now. What I would focus on here is one, monitoring your leaf spot conditions first and foremost. Secondly, would be properly timing your app for summer patch, right? And really, there's a 2 app protocol there. So if you're looking at your summer patch apps, again, you're trying to get to 65 degrees soil temperature at a 2-inch depth, and you're trying to measure that, towards the height of the afternoon heat, right? So between like say 2 and 4 p.m., if at all possible. And when you get those temperatures 3 days in a row, you go ahead and you make your first application. That can be a DMI, like a propiconazole, but more specifically, if you can get a strobularin right in there, and also make sure that you water that in, because that is a root-borne pathogen. Okay, and it's one of
Yep,
those
yep.
ones that if you target that right now in like April and May, because you're going to make a follow-up application 28 days later, and you have to get that stuff down in the soil. So watering with like up to a 1/4 inch of water when you do it. You can try and tie it up with the rain, but that's a really dicey proposition because you could push everything off target. You might get too much and get it past where you needed to have it in the root zone. So I strongly caution you to kind of make sure that if you have an irrigation system, which if you're managing at 1.25 inches, I sure hope to hell that you do. Otherwise, that's a lot of hose pulling and hand watering and everything else to keep that alive. But those would be the things I'd be focused on right now is short term, long term. Short term, watching out for leaf spot, and you're going to get into some of that weather here starting next week. And then more pointedly is looking out for summer patch because that's something that you make the application now. It doesn't manifest itself here for another 2, 3, 4 months, right? When conditions are right for
Yep.
it. So think about
June and
that.
July.
Take it for what it is.
June and July, Ryan,
Oh,
is
he came back.
when
He says, fall app was at 1 pound in September and October, half pound every 2 weeks. Lawn looks good, but I had some dull blade damage. Doing fine now, but I figure this was way too early. David, I guarantee you in 2 weeks, especially with the weather we have coming in the next week after all this rain, that shit will be chooching and you will not see any of that damage here 2 weeks from now. Check in with us though. We'll do another one of these here in a couple weeks and we'll find out what's going on here. All right, 2 last comments here. Todd says, "Hey, Nod, I feel you. Just want to. It's nice to check in and hear what you guys are saying. I'll check in more often and get a feel for what you're putting out. All the best." Todd, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Thank
And
you,
Chuck,
Todd.
he says, "Thanks, Ryan and Ray. I always remember that you said anyone can grow a good lawn up until Memorial Day. For what it's worth, that's when the flamingos go out. Love you. We love you too, Chuck. I hope you have a great evening, sir. So, and with that, I hope everybody else has a great evening. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Again, if you want to check us out, www.patreon.com/burn and return. That's where for the low price of a untariffed gallon of gasoline, you can join the midst of a Discord server and behind the scenes events and things like that. And our annual trip to Louisville here, which is, like I said, a few 6 months away here. So, be a great time. It'd be our fifth annual JPEG. 21, 22,
Yeah.
23, 24. Yeah, 25. Holy shit.
Yeah, Ray and I were just talking. We're going to schedule a night to buy his ticket like we always do. That's coming up next.
There you go.
That's the
We're
next.
gonna buy. We're gonna
the
buy.
next event.
We're gonna buy a ticket. And one comment I forgot to say here that I wanted to touch on is, and I'll leave everybody with this, is John P. John Petrucci, who's been on the show, great guy up there in Connecticut. He said, I had a client reach out this week and asked me to not use Kentucky bluegrass. She would prefer to use Connecticut bluegrass, so it's native. John, that's when, even if you don't smoke, you go in the truck, you light up a Winston, you take a few long drags, you sit there and cry to yourself, and then you go back to work as soon as it's done. All right? Have a great day. We love you all. Bye. That's it. There's no after show.
Yep. No after show.
Because